I'd like to invite up to the stage our expert engineers and moderator. Moderating this panel will be Andrew Ruegger from Catalyst, Gil Berman from Airbnb, welcome back, Derek Perkins with Nozzle, Tanner Linsley from Nozzle as well, and Mike Atwood from Wayfair. Please, gentlemen. I think we're all looking forward to hearing many of the technical tips and success.
All right, I'll sit right in the middle. Link arms if you want. Yeah, well, I have a lot of things to hold. Nice to meet all you.
Hello? Okay. I just want to remind everyone that this is an audience-driven panel, and we are taking questions live. You can do that via Slido. That's going to http://sli.do and entering the event code A670. A670.
All right, hear me? Good. So my name is Andrew Ruegger. I run data science for Catalyst and GroupM. I got my start many years ago in SEO, and I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Shapiro and many others in this room on technical SEO projects for the past several years. So I was really excited when he asked me to come moderate this panel, because up here we have four kind of rock star SEO folks who have, I guess, three really unique characteristics that you don't often see together, which is they're experts in search, they're also developers, and from the experience I've had with them, they're really good at talking and can explain things pretty easily. So the fact that we have four of them up here who can kind of answer all of your questions is exciting to me, because a lot of developers I work with on a regular basis sometimes are difficult to understand and don't know a ton about search. So we have a lot of questions that came through the Slido portal, which I'm going to read off in a moment. But also, if you didn't submit one and you want to ask a question, just raise your hand, and I'll kind of just point you out. Please try to keep them relevant to the topic, but if they're entertaining, I may read them anyway. So I'll start with you, sir. Please introduce yourself, and just I think you already did earlier, but just a brief explanation of experience.
I'm Derek. Whoa. I've got Brian's mic, apparently. I'm Derek Perkins with Nozzle. We do search analytics and SEO rank tracking software, and it's the best. My friends call me Cookie, and I grew up in Beijing, China. That's my little brief fun fact.
Mike Atwood with Wayfair here in Boston. I've been there for about 2 years. I am the lead engineer on the SEO engineering team, and that's it.
My name's Tanner Linsley. I'm also with Nozzle. I'm very front-end oriented, very developer oriented. Actually, probably of this panel, I probably know the least about SEO and maybe the most about tech. No, I'm just joking. No, I live in the open source kingdom all day, every day. I love GitHub, and I could talk all day about React, probably. That's kind of my little intro.
Cool. I'm Gil Berman, software engineer with Airbnb. I was on the search in the SEO team for 2 years. More recently, I switched to a different team, but I still work on AMP.
All right, well, we have a question for you, Gil, so since you're holding the mic, you're up first. So what are some of the technical challenges to implementing AMP in an existing code base that SEOs and marketers should be aware of?
Okay, I actually went through a lot of this in my presentation.
We can move on to a different one if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do.
Okay. So I guess another one is about AMP, is who should be considering amping their websites, and I guess what's the number one thing that you should look at for implementing AMP?
Yeah. I'd say the number one thing is that you already rank really well on Google and get a lot of traffic. If you don't, it may not be worth the expense of amping your page.
Okay. Anybody else have any other thoughts about AMP? When it's not, I mean, a lot of our clients ask all the time, is it worth it? Because they essentially believe it's making another website. So they always want to know the cost benefit to it. do you have kind of any examples of, I guess, return from implementing AMP?
So, right, so in our case, we do get a ton of traffic, but we're not actually we're not sold on AMP, essentially. I mean, I'm very bullish on it, but there's other people at the company who are very skeptical, and it's on my team to essentially prove that it's going to work for us. So we're still trying to prove it. I think that we will prove it, but at this point, we haven't committed to it 100%.
Okay. We have some questions for Tanner. So what can SEOs do to foster better collaboration with engineers?
Well, right. Man, I got to be honest. When I have SEO people come and ask me to implement technical things, I hate it, especially this guy. It's the worst, honestly. It's the worst because it disrupts the regular day-to-day for a developer if you're an engineer. So I guess for me, the most important thing to foster that relationship is respect that I'm an engineer and that I know that you don't speak my language, but I also don't speak your language entirely either. So being really specific about everything that you need implemented. Don't just say, hey, I need AMP, Oh, okay, whoa. You're gonna have to teach me about AMP. You're gonna have to teach me, all this stuff. Just being very specific and also not being, I guess, here's a really good story for you, actually. So Derek is the SEO side of me, right? If we were a pair, he's the SEO side, I'm the technical side of the front end. He asked me to do some really crazy things for SEO, and it just wasn't fun. I'm sorry. It's not fun, and I remember doing it in WordPress, and I was like, oh, if I could just get rid of WordPress, it'll be better. And then, we moved to Hugo static site generator, and, I thought it would be better, and it's not. It was never fun. And finally, I realized that anything he asked me to do is not going to be fun unless I can make it fun for myself. So I said, hey, Derek, why don't you just get out of my hair with all the technical stuff? Let me implement it how I want to implement it. It shouldn't matter to you how I get that meta tag in the head, as long as it's there by the end of the day. And he said, all right, fine. So I went and I built my own static site generator. I built, if anybody's familiar with Gatsby or anything like that, I built React Static. It's a new React static site generator exactly for the purposes that Max was talking about in his talk. And I gotta tell you, I'm not pumped about implementing his stuff now, but when he asks for something, I can do it in 5 seconds because it's my stack, it's my agility that's on the line instead of trying to work around some weird system that's been put in place by my SEO people. You got to go jump through these WordPress hoops, and then you got to go into Cloudflare and do all this stuff, In the end, it's just hey, do it, and I have control over the stack. And I guess that's the most important thing, is that when I have control over my stack, and I can implement things as quickly as I need to implement them, because I don't have all day to do that kind of stuff. So that is a great relationship.
That's a good answer. It's a good story. Do you ever find that the folks who work in SEO or marketing in general understand just general development cycles or anything about your daily routine? And do you think it'd be valuable to teach them about it? Because we have a group of folks who kind of are in-betweeners in a way, so that almost our developers don't get stressed out because we have almost translators, and that seems to help them quite a bit. But I always want to train the people who are asking the questions directly so that we don't need the in-betweeners to do it.
Yeah, that would absolutely be valuable. And that's difficult, too, to answer specifically because every company's going to have their own type of development cycle.
Yeah.
You have whole conferences on that, But for me individually, I don't want to go in 30 times a month and make changes. I want to go in one time every month and make 30 changes in 5 minutes. So it's important to outline that process.
I like your style.
Yeah, make sure that.
Efficient.
Yeah.
I can address that. Maybe a little defense too. But yeah, I mean, when to your last question, it makes me think of Office Space, right? I'm a people person. I walk the papers down to the engineers, right? Yeah. What? And I think that's important to understand. And I think understanding, if you're a marketer, understanding the motivations and what drives someone who is an engineer, who is a web developer, someone who, has chosen this as a career. Generally, they love creating things. Websites are fun because you can iterate quickly, and it's like, oh, I just made this super fancy thing. And SEO, especially, all the technical SEO things we've talked about, they're invisible, they're not exciting, they can't show it to their, friends, family, wife. They're not like, oh, guess what I did today? I have JSON LD now, yeah, right? It's not exciting. And so for Tanner, I know that that's one thing that motivates him is contributing back to open source. We've done a ton of open source work at Nozzle. We've talked at work, right? There are people who love Instagram and getting their social likes, and his wife called him out on it one day when, he kept checking when we released React Static, like, oh, how many stars did I get today on GitHub, right? Even though it doesn't feel like the same social network, there's still a lot of that same, feedback mechanisms at work. And so when Tanner's trending on Product Hunt, which he's done, I think 3 times now, when he's trending on GitHub, it's like, you're going to get literally 10x the work out of that developer that you would if you're just maybe even 100x versus, please, make this text change. Like that isn't motivating, and it's going to kill any engineer.
Awesome. All right, so that kind of leads, the team structure is always interesting for me. So we got a question for Mike about his dedicated team. So we're led to believe that you have a dedicated SEO engineering team that works very closely with your in-house SEO team. So can you tell us a little bit about what that structure is like and how it's successful, and also like what's not successful about it?
So we have, is this working? We have a pretty large in-house SEO business team of like 15, 16 people, and then we have a pretty large dedicated SEO engineering team of 6 people, including myself. What works really well is we're a very close team. We work very closely together. We sit together. We do team outings together. We do things where we really collaborate a lot. And then we're pretty involved, like the SEO engineering team. We're all full stack. We all work on pretty much the entire queue of things at the moment. It's a team that's ramped up pretty rapidly. And so we all kind of learn all the same things. We're all learning the techniques and stuff. And it works out where we understand SEO pretty well, and we can communicate with the business pretty well, and then we're also kind of teaching them what we do and what works pretty well. So it's a good balance back and forth there.
I have a little bit of a story. One of our better developers, I'm going to say, gave me a presentation 4 years ago now, all about how SEO worked, what it was, and all the things that we should be doing. He was previously a lawyer, quit his lawyer job, and then became a developer, which was fascinating in and of itself. So it's interesting to me when he kind of took the time, went out and learned, I guess, the fundamentals of SEO, and then gave me a presentation on it because that was my job. But do you think I have my own biases, but do you think it's harder for someone who's an SEO person, let's say a very technically oriented SEO person, to become more of a developer or become a developer, or is it harder for a developer to then become someone who is, has a strong knowledge base for SEO? And that's open to all of you guys. Especially because you're all engineers, so I'd assume it's going to go one way, but.
Oh, did you want to? Okay.
I got to be honest, I haven't put forth too much effort in becoming like the SEO expert. I love development a lot more.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I were to apply myself, it wouldn't be too difficult to at least enter, the ranks of y'all. But
Yeah, I would say, so for me personally, like I've learned a lot from the team, and I feel like I would never try to do that because we don't really have the need for that, but where we can apply that learning is like we can recognize other things that are happening across our site. Like we have a huge site, we have a huge code base, we have a big group of engineers that are changing the site regularly, and we can see things that are going to be a problem for SEO, whereas like if we didn't have that knowledge, then these things would get past us and we would never they wouldn't be caught until our rankings tanked a month down the line. And so I think that like having some knowledge on each side is important, but I wouldn't try to do my PM's job. I'm not looking to do that.
Gotcha.
I think it's getting better as far as like engineers understanding more about SEO, especially as Google and Facebook are essentially turning everything into an API. Like a developer can look at JSON LD and be like, oh, I get it. Google wants that so they can display this thing. Generally, if you're building sites, you understand, oh, I need data, I need structured data so that I can complete a task. And that's really what, at the core of technical SEO, we're trying to take our data and make it more accessible and visible to a search engine. And so where it actually turns into like a JSON object versus put these cryptic item props in the HTML that seem ridiculous, it seems to me like that gap is shrinking, and I think it's easier for the dev to at least understand the purpose of it. You don't have to learn coding coming the other way.
I just wanted to make a quick comment on this because it's like we have two sides of the fence here. We have the web developer versus the SEO. Unfortunately, I do all of it. But on my side job, that has fed my family for the last 10 years. But I do work in a larger company now as their SEO specialist. One of the things that I'm finding where my roadblock is coming is I need more access to things, and I'm used to changing things on the fly as they come up. So from the engineer's perspective, how do you feel about giving access to certain elements or parts after I'm going to assume you know the person and you're feeling comfortable in a working relationship? Because that seems to be where my roadblock is right now.
I mean, that last bit to me would be the first thing. If I don't know you, if I haven't seen what you're doing, and you're like, oh, I want to just be able to change your stuff, like my first reaction is going to be engineering a way for you to not break things, right? Here's a text field for you, I'm going to assume that you're going to break things out of the gate. So I don't know how to maybe if you have things to share with an engineer that would demonstrate your capability and that you're not going to break everything and cause them to get paged in the middle of the night because you broke the site. Like, I don't know, some way you have to be able to build that trust, because as an engineer, my assumption is you are going to break it.
Yeah, so at Airbnb, I think maybe things work a little different than what you might imagine. An SEO specialist can actually open a pull request and write their own code, and then it would be reviewed by an engineer. So, yeah, it's not, they would just need, maybe to get whatever credentials they need to open the pull request, go through the channels to do that, but there's really nothing stopping them from changing whatever they want.
So, yeah, no.
No, I was just going to add that we have a lot of structure in place around who can change the code and stuff, so that wouldn't really be possible at Wayfair, but one of the things we would really focus on is building out tools to allow you to do that. Like, obviously, with 6 dedicated engineers, we can change things pretty quickly, like we have people to do that stuff, but we also work on making like tools that enable the SEO business team to do their job pretty quickly and easily, like admin tools and stuff that they can change data behind the scenes that drive some of the pages. So.
Yeah, just to put a point on that exact thing, like I love all of these services that a lot of them are almost free now, where you can have like graph content and build your own interfaces fairly quickly for people to change things on the fly, and then you as a developer have control over those things that you are expecting your SEO people to break, Like I know I use Contentful all the time because I know I can give access to whoever it is and just say, hey, here's a text field. If you want to change it, you put it in there. I'll handle it when I can, when I want to.
Yeah, I mean, for example, at our company, our engineers don't give me access to all the things I want access to. And they rightfully do that because I'll query our entire Redshift database because I want to look at all the information at once, and that causes a lot of problems for everybody. So even though I know what I'm doing and I just want to test what Redshift's capable of doing, engineers tend to know what's best, even if people have technical skills to deal with some of the things. So here's some of these funny questions, which I love. The Philadelphia Eagles will not win the Super Bowl, Frank. I got this T-shirt online, and whoever asked me out to dinner, I'd absolutely go out to dinner with you. So another good question, I think, to kind of get into the middle between an SEO person and a developer is, what are the best places for resources for someone who's newer to tech and tech SEO to learn like the lingo that's associated with kind of what you guys are doing? So is there a place you can go reference, I don't know, particular acronyms or, I don't know, concepts that would make it easier for them to communicate? Google? Just Google it? Okay.
Like Code Academy? Yeah. There's a lot of free resources.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I ask my developers questions and they send me links that have Google queries in them. I get those quite a bit. Let's see. What type of SEO recommendations are the hardest to implement, or have you found to be the hardest to implement in the past? Are there any things you just absolutely won't implement?
Can I just add one thing to
Yeah,
the question?
yeah, sure.
There's a lot of like SEO advice out there, but our approach to SEO, I think, has just been just to prove it. So if there's something that we're not sure about, we'll run an experiment and figure out if it works or not. An example might be, does decreasing the server rendering time improve search results, search ranking? And we did find that that was the case. Yeah.
Did you want to read that last question?
Yeah.
The last one? About dinner?
No.
Oh, reread the last question about, yeah, I kind of lost where it was. What was the most difficult thing to implement as a developer for SEO? I think was the last one. Or is there just something in particular that you won't do? There's also one about your greatest failure as a developer in terms of SEO. Like, did you ever just do something that totally destroyed your traffic? Anyone across? Yeah, you? Willing to admit? All right.
Well, this isn't me. This is a story about a major telecom company who in January 2016, they did they said, oh, we're going to make this awesome new JavaScript redesign of our site. Everything's going to be amazing. And their devs, no index to their site. And no one noticed for a month. So end of January, the accountants are going through and they're like, hey, it looks like our web sales dropped 10% this month. And someone went back and, the marketing head rolled because they weren't watching for it and getting delisted. But the devs that were doing their super fancy JavaScript framework, they felt really awesome about this cool user experience that they had done. So it's obviously important to communicate back and forth, and especially, kind of like Patrick at IBM, you have to have monitoring and alerting systems in place, hopefully unit tests that keep you from, mistakes are going to happen. A dev is going to do something stupid and turn absolute links into relative because it's way easier. I've fought Tanner on that before. But I just want relative. Who cares? And, but yeah, having tests and alerts to make sure that doesn't happen.
So I like this question. Amazon's all over the place, literally. And so what technical advantages and disadvantages do any of you see for brand e-com websites over retailers like Amazon? So I guess put another way is like if you're a small and more agile kind of e-com shop, what areas as a developer do you think you can capitalize to kind of outdo Amazon with some of the stuff that they're doing, or do you think that they're kind of beyond catching? Maybe interesting for you to answer.
Specialization. So I think the example that I would give is our case, we created a page called Things to Do. And that was geared at people searching things to do in New York City, for example. And we ranked really well for that. In about, I think it took maybe 3 months, we went from not ranking at all to first to 10th place, first page of search results. And I think one of the main reasons why we rank so well is because we already rank really well on Google for travel, and that's related to travel. So if you can specialize in the thing that you're selling, then maybe you would rank better, like if it's, I don't know, like car mats. You would rank better for car mats than Google maybe, than Amazon, because Amazon is, they're ranking for retail, obviously, but you might be able to slip in there for that reason.
Yeah, interested to hear Wayfair's opinion, because you guys are killing it too, so.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like competing with Amazon and stuff, you could talk to like the CEO and some of those presentations on how we're going to try to compete in other spaces other than SEO. But for SEO, I think it's just we have a very good dedicated team. We have a big team of engineers and a great business team, and we're doing pretty well with ranking. So I think it's just dedicating resources, like we were talking earlier, educating each other, like making sure that we're constantly looking out for SEO, making sure that the rest of the company understands the importance of SEO. Kind of going back to what you were saying about like other devs breaking things to do with SEO. A lot of that is just they don't understand that some features are there for SEO, and so they just rip them out, like extra text that the customer might not be interested in, but really helps their rankings. So just keeping an eye out for things like that and just staying pretty diligent.
Great. So I think we're out of time. If there are any more questions, we're happy to take them. Okay.
To answer a previous question, the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl.
That's
by the
right.
way.
You're in the wrong town, Frank. You are in the wrong
Sorry.
town. All right. Good? Okay.